Okay, today, episode number 26, we got my man Omer Granot of LocalizeOS. This technology is changing the game, and even more fascinating is the dude who's the CEO of it. My man Omer was under seas in submarines, number 2 on a submarine for the last 7 years. When he finally pops up, he comes up with the technology that it is simple, right? Every time we talk to someone, it doesn't always have to be complex. It could be intuitive and change the game. That's what they're doing for the brokerage community. Everyone's been attacking that sector, and I think they got the wedge in. And I'll tell you, since we are all adopting technology, especially with AI and ChatGPT, I bet you their business starts booming. Now, they're too big for me to put money in, but I definitely would have back in the day. Missed that boat. So sit down, listen up, and see how he's changing that brokerage game.
That's why we're here, bro. This is real tech talk. Boom shakalaka. So who the hell are you, bro? You know, what are you into? What do you do? Yo, you can keep it real here. Tell me about these real estate traders.
Eric Brody is the managing principal of CEMVC LLC. All opinions expressed by Eric and podcast guests are solely their own opinions and do not reflect the opinion of CEMVC LLC. This podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be relied upon as a basis for investment decisions. Clients of CEMVC LLC may maintain positions in the securities discussed in this podcast.
All right, welcome back to Real Tech Talk, people. Number 26, this time with my man, Omer Granot. Now, you don't know, but I know. This young man is finally coming up from undersea. 7 years submarine captain. I said I'd bring you the dopest technologist in the game. You don't normally speak to people like him, but I do, and I brought him here for you. And he's going to talk about his new, not that new, actually quite established, called Localize. And we're going to get into it. But first and foremost, Omer, thank you so much for coming on in, brother, man.
Thank you. Super excited to be here.
I know you came from far, so, this isn't so easy to come by New York City for me, so I appreciate it, man.
Awesome.
And now what everyone else doesn't know is that on Thursday, me and him are going to be on the big stage. By the time you see this, you won't even know that it actually happened. We're going to be on the stage in front of 4,000 people coming up. Am I right?
Yeah.
So listen, we always like to find out a little bit of background about you and then why the hell you got into real estate and technology. So first and foremost, so tell us a little bit about yourself, bro.
Awesome. So, Omer Granot, originally from Israel.
I'm sorry, my accent was shit.
Exactly. As recognized by my slight accent. 40, grew up in Israel. As you mentioned, served for 7-8 years in submarines.
Wait, can we just talk about that for a second? Because I find it fascinating. Submarines, but you were the captain, right? It was your job, that boat.
I was the XO, second in command.
Second in command of a submarine. I can barely swim, let alone be a submarine commander. So I don't know about everyone else out there who's fascinated with the military, but I'm impressed.
Thank you. It's nice. It's an interesting sort of different environment.
But why? Why would they give you that role? What does that mean your background was? What were you into?
Yeah, it's a good question. I sort of went like very mathematical, physics, engineering, sort of not engineering, but like physics, math, computers, high school kind. And then in Israel, everyone joins the military.
Wait, but also fitness, because you're not like a sloppy mess. So there's physics with sports?
With sports. I was a competitive swimmer growing up.
Damn, son. What was I doing in Brooklyn, Where was I? Was it into physics? Damn. I missed out. Well, all right, cool. Gotcha.
So physics and swimming, basically age 6 to 18.
Yeah.
And then volunteered for the military. There's a bunch of, tests or like path that you could take. I chose Navy and started the Naval Officers Academy, which was nice. To be completely honest, it was never sort of my dream. It was sort of more of a challenge.
Yeah, by the way, I'm just fascinated. I don't know if our audience cares. I just think it was the craziest thing when you told me that. So whatever, it's all good. Yeah. So you get out of there, 7 years, under the ground, you pop up, now what?
Surf in Costa Rica for 6 months.
Oh, nice. Just decompress?
Decompress, exactly.
Yeah.
Physics, engineering, undergrad in Israel. And then got married, moved to the U.S.
Can I ask a side question? Was physics easy for you? Like, did it just make sense? No. Okay, so you were fighting through that too. You just always did it.
Spitting blood.
Okay,
yeah.
okay.
And then, but realized I'm sort of interested in physics, but never going to be an exceptional physicist. Mm-hmm. And so continued, applied to a bunch of business schools, got into MIT. Got married.
Oh, I forgot about that. Fucking A, dude. Submarines, sports, physics. Oh yeah, then I went to this little school. You might have heard of it in America called MIT. All right, I'm just trying to tell about the quality of the people I'm bringing on this show. I'm trying to give myself props. So then you went to MIT. For physics.
Business.
Okay.
Yeah, did my
Thank
MBA.
God we stepped it down.
Yeah, stepped down.
God forbid you then did MIT physics.
No, business MIT.
Okay.
Then joined what was then a very small startup in New York in sort of transit tech called Via. Joined when we were 16 people.
Via is the app that's competing with Lyft and Uber, no? Wasn't that the third one? What am I missing?
So that's kind of in New York, that's how people know us.
Yeah.
Via is sort of an operating system for public mobility. Like
Okay.
yellow school buses in New York, public transit in Tel Aviv actually runs on Via technology. But we also had a direct-to-consumer sort of lab in New
And that
York.
was your first job or you had started it?
No, that was my first job post-MBA.
Okay, cool.
Joined early on, worked there for 5 years, grew with the team from sort of 16 to roughly 1,000.
Oh, wow.
Kind of wild 5 years. And then had 3 kids on the way. And we decided we want to move back to Israel. Left Via, still cheering for them from the sidelines, and then joined to start Localize in the US.
So when you say join, though, you were it was your idea or you were principal of someone else's idea? What was the story?
So I joined as a COO to a real estate tech company that operated in Israel for 8 years. That is sort of like the Zillow for Israel. It's like a marketplace operating in Israel, one of the two largest marketplaces. Joined as a COO with the goal of launching and expanding to the US.
But let me ask you, though, how did you get from, you got physics, MBA, no problem. You go into tech, but why real estate now? Like, why was that the opportunity?
I'm kind of industry agnostic. I think there are interesting problems to solve in almost every domain of life. And so it was kind of random. Mobility was just because I heard about this startup. I literally wrote when I was at MIT, cool startups in New York and heard about Via. And then when I wanted to transition back to Israel, I have a good friend who's a mentor, who's a sort of a very large private angel investor in Israel. I asked him like, okay, that's what I've done in the last 5 years. We're transitioning back to Israel. If you were in my shoes, who would you talk to? And he introduced me to a bunch of people. One of them was the founder of Localize, Madlan in Israel. And I was just blown away by sort of it's a massive market, massive opportunity, very strong team.
What is?
Residential real estate, I would say.
So residential real estate, you were like, this is a mess and it's huge.
Exactly. First, it's huge.
Yeah.
Then when you kind of dive into it, you say, okay, there's endless opportunities to improve, help the partners that are actually already playing in that field, and really very little to no technology.
And you said residential. That was where you wanted to put on the full frontal attack, was going to be in the residential space.
Yeah.
So what were they doing? What was the idea?
So the idea is sort of...
And now, what is your role there? So you're at Localize now. That is why you are here today. What's your role there?
Yeah, so I'm the CEO. I joined as a COO after a year. The founder and I sort of swapped roles, and ever since I've been leading the company as its CEO.
Okay, so now they're in residential real estate. What was it? What was the idea in Israel?
So in Israel, we are a data-driven real estate marketplace, right? Think about Zillow or StreetEasy, just with a ton more insights, right? We tell you not just the listings and availability, we tell you how much light does your apartment get, and education, traffic, crime rate, future construction, everything you would want to know about the property before making the transaction.
So tons of business intelligence. And how are you picking up that data?
So much of it we're plugged into public or publicly available, but not really accessible databases. And much of it we just generate in-house.
Right. And then as you learn and as you grow, right? That's the whole data set model, right?
Exactly.
So then what was it going to be in New York then? Because we had StreetEasy, we had Zillow. So they already existed, correct, when you came over?
Yeah, so I think the first...
And what year was it when you just landed and you were like, all right, we're going to fucking blow up New York?
So when I joined, when I joined Localize at the end of 2020, it was already somewhat trying to operate in the US, in New York, but in the old model. So basically take what we do in Israel and launch in the US. Like you said, I think competing with StreetEasy, Zillow was extremely hard to sort of break through.
Yeah, they were first movers,
Exactly. You're coming in late to the game. It's just sort of kicking off a marketplace requires lots of funding. It's a process that's very hard to join when you're late to the game.
And especially it's like strength on strength, right? You got to find your angle, and your angle isn't, let's go head to head with the biggest companies. Like it's just a recipe for disaster.
Exactly. So that was tough.
So, and which I love about technology. So what was the pivot, right? So you come in and you're like, I can't do it this way. This isn't going to work.
Exactly. So we joined. We said, okay, what do we have? We have a very strong team of engineering in Israel. We have a very strong data-driven product. We're plugged into databases. We have a lot of machine learning, AI, sort of deep technology engineers in Israel that are top of the world.
This is pre-chat GPT, right? Where the whole world wants to talk about it. You
Exactly.
already were in that game.
This is a year ahead of sort of AI, ChatGPT exploding.
Mm-hmm.
And so we look at residential real estate. We say, okay, again, massive market, right? $2 trillion of transaction volume every year, 1.6 million real estate agents, $90 billion of agent commissions. But then if you look at the market, again...
So you knew that there was a market, right? That data is just saying, all right, it's massive. There's money to be made if we can come up with some kind of solution.
Exactly. And then when you think about it, there's really no technology, right? We specifically looked at how an agent or a brokerage work and how efficient they are, right? And if you look at basically the one metric that really matters, you spend a lot of money on lead acquisition, on getting in front of people. How many of those people do you get to transact with you? And the number is below 1%.
Oh, I can imagine. Although I'm just curious, you looked at the tech landscape of brokerage, right? And we're getting into how you localize is now like, penetrating that space. What did they say was tech? What was it? You know what I'm saying? Because there are companies out there that said they were tech forward. But what did you see? You're saying you didn't see the tech, but what were they pretending like they were doing? Is it like that the listings were in the cloud? Is that like tech?
So I think there was a sort of one big innovation that's, well worth where Zillow, yes, there was like aggregation, moving listings into portals, making it accessible. I think that was an actual shift or change.
Yeah, but what's fascinating about that is it wasn't the brokerage community.
It wasn't the brokerage, exactly.
Right? It was like the technologists who looked at the problem, because within the brokerage community, they were all pretending that they were, I don't want to say that, but like they thought they had technology. They weren't paying attention, which I think is indicative of this industry. It's like, we think we understand what's happening, but we're not physicists at MIT telling you, okay, if you believe that, like pay attention.
Yeah, so when we came in, we're kind of we were kind of modest. We were like, okay, how are you doing things? And really, if you put technology aside for a second, it was mind blowing to us that you spend all of this money acquiring leads, but you then
right. So you're saying the attack is the leads. So boom, right?
Exactly.
And anyone in sales knows what you're talking about. They're like,
Exactly.
I talked to 100 people, one communicates with me, and they're really annoyed at me, right?
Yeah.
It's like Wolf of Wall Street. You pick up the phone, you're just like, dial 100 numbers.
Yeah.
Just go. Like, what are you doing?
You spend this money, you lose 99% of the leads that you buy. It's just mind blowing, right? Think of a business that spends a lot of money on growing and then loses 99% and is okay with it. It's just mind blowing to us.
Why do you think they were losing them?
And so that's what we asked. We were like, okay, but how? Why? Like, why does that happen? And the reality is that in order to be successful as an agent, as a brokerage, you have to balance sort of, on one hand, you need to build meaningful relationships. You need to get people to trust you, to basically have you be their champion, right? In the biggest financial decision of their life. At the other hand, at the same time, you have to do it at a very, very large scale. You have to do it with thousands or tens of thousands of people because you don't know who will transact.
Right, because that's that sales. It's a numbers game, right?
Exactly. So that is kind of what we saw.
Wait, no, you said something interesting. It's not just a numbers game. It's also a timing game, right? When they transact.
Exactly. You have to manage... You have to build meaningful relationships with an unreasonable number of people simultaneously. And that is just something that is humanly impossible to do without technology. And that is the problem that we came in to solve.
Well, I think that there's a few people, or let's call them the 0.001%, who has solved that, I guess, with, content and social media. And we can name like 1 or 5, right? But
Sure.
Everyone else, no, right?
Yeah, but you have like 1.6 million agents and you have 5 of these.
Yeah, 5 of these, right. I'm just saying. So that was where you were like, Localize can insert itself.
Exactly.
And that was the problem you can solve. How? Like, how are you going to solve that?
So we sort of deconstructed, right? Why do you lose Why do you lose transactions? Why do you lose opportunities? Because eventually you are human. You wake up in the morning. It doesn't matter if you have 200 or 2,000 or 20,000 people in your database. You sort of, okay, who do I talk to today? And you kind of guess. You choose randomly 20 to 50. You can hire other people to give calls, but it's a very small amount. And
you don't know if they're real, right? You did from your personal opinion. You didn't,
yeah,
right?
It's just random. You send someone on their birthday, but is a birthday sort of a signal that you're going to buy a house? Probably not.
Or maybe they're really upset now they hate you, you know? They don't want to know it's their birthday.
So that's kind of how we start. And we say, okay, how can we help? How can we amplify agents in the sense that we will put them at the right time in front of people who actually are ready and want to transact? How can we take the piece of qualification, engagement, advancing people in the process? How can we leverage technology to do that? And then have humans focus on where humans are actually exceptional, right? So the goal is not to replace the agent, it's to amplify them. It's to power them.
I think, I'm not even like concerned about that, or I completely agree. It's not, right? Because I've even spoken to you about it. We don't transact without a human for 250,000 and above. Like we don't. And we know that from the iBuying and the power buying. So no one's replacing an agent.
Yeah.
But what you're saying is just like so simple and like intuitive, right? Like it's almost like it's a no-brainer, right? Like, I mean, you haven't told how. Okay, fine. How? Tell me how first because I know, but tell our audience how. How do you do what you're saying?
So again, you're an agent. You wake up in the morning, you have 2,000 people in your contact list, in your Rolodex, in your sphere of influence. How do you choose? We say don't choose, right? Partner with Localize. We will give you a system that you can plug your database into. You can upload a file, you can plug programmatically. That piece is easy. We take all of your leads and we start to engage them using our AI software called Hunter, right? So Hunter over SMS. Hunter is sort of like a ChatGPT type interface that is extremely smart. And so let's say you give us 2,000 leads. Hunter will start to engage with each and every one of them in a personalized way. It will ask them a question around what are they looking for, timeline, budget, deal breakers, nice to have, all of those things. And then it will start to recommend apartments.
And it can A/B test it, right?
Exactly. Everything is A/B tested. So we send you a recommendation. It's one-to-one. It's not a one-size-fits-all. And then
they get that information. Like,
what do you mean?
Can the agent change the message going out? Can they use their brain and say, maybe at this time they want to hear about this, or does the program do it on its own?
So one of the challenges we've found in real estate is that adoption of technologies is very low because most technologies actually tell you what to do, but then you have to do it.
Yeah.
And so our system is proactive. So you as an agent, you can tweak the first message. You can tweak the data that you want. You can guide us at the beginning. But then the notion is that you give the system the freedom to do what it thinks is best. And we now have the numbers and the data to show that we actually, in many cases, outperform what you would otherwise do.
I mean, I bet you within 2 days you outperform them. Like you're like, how about you simmer down? I know you think you know, but you know, right? Our information is just greater, right? We're not dissing the human. You're just not going to be, you don't have the data set that we can comprehend in seconds.
Yeah, we're speeding up the process so that you can jump in at the right time.
Okay, cool. So now you've got this system that basically goes to the top of funnel, right? And to drive someone through it.
Everyone.
Right? And then put the human in the moment that they need that interaction. Take them as far as you can.
Exactly. We send recommendations and then we measure. We measure how you as a buyer engage. Did you read the message? Did you click it? Did you respond actively? Did you spend more time looking at the kitchen images or the bathroom or the living room? Of course. Right? And then the next recommendation will come basically more personalized to you, make it more appealing to you to engage. And we do that every single day for, at this point, hundreds of thousands of potential buyers.
Damn.
Yeah.
And then what happens? So now you know so much about the behavior of that buyer, right? They're just spending more of their day looking at images. You know what images they're looking at. You're recommending listings to them?
Yeah.
But whose listings?
Everyone's. We're plugged into the MLSs and we're basically listing.
So you're probably like the most optimized, unit picker, right? Based on, by the way, it's not experience, the AI didn't go into the apartment, but it's like these images, this layout, this information, right? Which is like incredible. It's still better than anyone could do, right? Then what happens? You on the other side, the buyer now. You're that agent gave you that lead. Now what?
So we engage, qualify, nurture, advance people in the process. When someone gets to a point where they're ready to go see a place in person, and there are many ways to sort of figure that out. They can actually ask for a showing. They can say they like a property. There are many ways to say it. At that point, we basically pull that lead, pull back the agent. We say we have one of your buyers is ready to go see a place. We give them a quick brief of everything we've learned. Obviously, throughout the process, they have full transparency, but we give them a quick summarized brief of everything we learned. And then as soon as the agent and the buyer confirms that they want to move forward, we basically make the match. We make the reintroduction, and we say, go close the deal.
Wow. I mean, look, I know a bunch about it. And even in construction, like the way we purchase supply would have been just like you're saying, call everyone up and see who has what. You can easily insert some type of AI and nurture that and get the best pricing. Like it's a no-brainer to me. So in that regard, I find it fascinating that you're like, for some reason, real estate is a laggard. Like the second they hear this, there's no one that shouldn't be getting sort of pricing from you. So how is the business going? Like in general, it seems to me it's a no-brainer. So how have you expanded now that you're in New York? Like, was it a lot harder than your expectation? What's the resistance and how are you doing?
We started in New York a year and a half ago. As of last couple of months, we've expanded to Chicago and then to Miami, South Florida, basically Miami, Fort Lauderdale. It's going pretty well. I think the biggest challenge when we started a year and a half ago was pre-ChatGPT, pre-AI. Everyone was sort of afraid of technology.
Yeah.
You're trying to replace us.
Yeah.
It was post the hype of like iBuying. Everyone were like, we're going to eliminate the agent. Everyone were concerned about giving, like sharing.
So it was perception. Isn't that wild?
It was
that's
perception
human psychology,
and ego.
right?
Perception and ego, I would say. But over the last year and a half, we have grown significantly. So we now have customers who have been working with us for more than a year. The data, the ROI is clear, right? They're making more money with Localize than they would have otherwise make without Localize.
Or more opportunity in the moment you're supposed to be there. Like what you're saying is just more opportunities to actually get deals and more opportunities to just try to get leads.
Exactly. More engaged users, more opportunities, more people coming back to them versus going to someone else.
And is it a SaaS platform? So, and is it the individual broker that is the client, or do you get the bigger companies as the client? Like what's your model? What do you think?
So we can work with all of them. We started with individual agents. We then moved to team leads, and now we have full brokerages, we have team leads, and we have agents. We have a solution for everyone.
And the integration, so to speak, is relatively simple. I mean,
it's very easy. It's a few minutes.
Wow. And then they're already up and running. Yeah. But the one thing they have to provide is the top of funnel. They have to have names of people, and I guess they don't even need to be quote unquote buyers. They literally just need emails. They need something to give you, right? They need a data set, no?
They need a data set. They need names and numbers. But again, we don't partner with sort of agents or people, I'd call it generally, who can just buy a list and give it to us, right? That's not what we do. We work with real estate professionals.
Right, because that'll mess up your data, right? Like if you just do that, not that it couldn't work for someone. It's just you kind of mess up that that the people are interested in real estate.
Yeah. Plus, again, the goal is not to spam people. The goal is to take people who are genuinely interested in buying an apartment and creating a better way of buying an apartment, a better way where technology gives you a counterpart that is not necessarily the human agent throughout the process, because that is tough on the agent, that gives you quick responses, contextualized recommendations, that is equitable, right? That doesn't care if you have a low or high budget, race, skin color, men or female.
It doesn't know. It doesn't care.
Gives equal service to everyone. I think it's just a better way of finding your next home.
Listen, it's definitely a task that, not unfortunate, obviously it can just do it better than a human. Like we don't need to like argue that fact, but at the end of the day, humans still need trust with other humans, and that's how it will interact. So it's pretty awesome. I mean, it's like basically being a broker / Iron Man woman or however you identify, but like now you're like a superhero in a specific set. Like you still need your credibility, you still need to understand the market, you still need to show these people that it works and that they should buy that. But like that grunt work is like incredible. So what's the future though? Like where does Localize go? So they own this market, right? Let's say you had every broker, then what? Is that enough for the business? If you're like, I need to penetrate 50% of the marketplace, it's a wrap. Or are there other things that you're seeing on the pathway?
So it's a good question. I'd say at this point we're focused on putting our technology in as many agents or brokerages' hands as possible. Right? We want more people to use the technology. Eventually it benefits them. As we scale, I think there are more opportunities that open up. Right? We can help people because we manage this process. We can help them find a mortgage advisor at the right point in time. We can help them find legal services if they need. And so when we look into the future, basically we want to be the gateway, right? You want
to have the wedge into the transaction.
Exactly. Again, on behalf of the partner agent, the partner brokerage, right? So we provide these services to them.
Right.
However, we provide a suite of solutions. We become their operating system in engaging all of these buyers, potential buyers.
And you're saying it's not to then do the same thing for the mortgage banking industry or another industry. It's to stick with the transaction because that wedge through the trusted advisor, the broker, is just the best way that you have found in order for the other services to get attached to it.
Yes,
through that person.
Yeah, I would say what we are very, very good at is having a human-like conversation, engagement, that is driven by machine learning and big data. So it's very contextualized. It can access basically every available data point in the market, right? And do that at scale for an unlimited number of people.
And like in milliseconds,
And instantly.
right? Like, I think that's what people are like forgetting is that this is just done so fast, meaning it's 10,000 things in 1 second that you have right now, right?
Exactly.
It's like, and you see it, even if you haven't used ChatGPT yet just to write an email, like it's good. What do you want to change a word? But like, if you didn't change a word, I don't think they'd think you were like bad or not good. Like you'd be like, all right, like it's cool, right?
Yeah.
So if you're using your own proprietary technology to execute the same, to me, it's wild. Even if I was getting in the game, that I would use it like personally. If I was on that side, on the brokerage side, looking for leads, like I understand specifically, and I feel like the future could be just massive. Honestly, because you can just do it anywhere, right? You just get the language model, you get the data points in any country. Doesn't just have to be America and...
Yeah, I think once you build the sort of underlying infrastructure, yes. And again, when we look into the future, we see one where if you do not leverage these new technologies, machine learning, again, large language models, big data, you will just be left behind.
Agreed.
You won't be
compete.
competitive.
No,
exactly.
It's not possible. The question is, when do you think that is? How fast?
So we've seen things speed up quite aggressively over the last year. I think AI now, you can't speak to anyone without, like AI is in everything, right? How do you choose your cereal? I leverage AI. So we've gone from being that only company that actually talks about AI, that builds these deep technologies, to everyone are talking about it. But I think we are the only ones that I know of, at least at this point, that actually connect all of these technologies. So it's not just...
And a first mover. Like you're into this space, first mover. You didn't say I'm an iBuyer, power buying, using algo. You're like, no, we're using AI to this specific space right now. Right?
Exactly. Yeah.
And you've been around in New York since 2020, right?
Yep.
So let me ask you, because I have you here, about the future, okay? Because at least I have your brain to work on it. So what do you think is going to happen then? Because you are getting that information. It's on rental and sales, right?
We do mostly sales, but I think eventually we will also expand to rentals.
So, and since we're New York centric, like what do you predict is going to happen in the sales market in New York over the next year as interest rates keep going up? Is it going to be impacted? Is it going to slow down? Like, what do you think? I mean, now you're all around the country, so it doesn't matter. That's why I'm asking you about New York. And since I'm New York centric, I want to know. I want to know what that brain thinks.
So first, what do I know? The honest answer is, what do I know?
You read the news. You have a ton of brokers that are your clientele. I mean, you get the cheese. You get the gossip.
So I think the world is changing for sure. I think interest rates, technology, working from home. There's a lot of changes. It's hard to know how exactly it will play out. I also think the financial environment generally is changing now. There's a lot of layoffs, technology specifically. So New York is definitely going to be impacted. In the long run, I think it's going to continue to grow and scale. I think it's limited, like supply is limited, demand continues to grow. And so in the long term, I'm very, very optimistic.
And look at you as a human. You're like, if we talk about urbanization, you seem to not be able to, you're only allowed to live in cities. You said Tel Aviv, New York, Miami. You're like, look, no matter what, I want to be in a city. It's, we still love it, even though we're not going to the office as much.
Exactly. So I think eventually long term is very bullish. I think in the short term or short to medium, there's going to be changes. I think commercial real estate is definitely going to change. The baseline of how much people go to offices, where they work, how that structure is going to change. But there's already a lot of discussions on transitioning potentially commercial to residential, on investing in infrastructure to allow people to work remotely. I think in the long term.
Now, how about your industry, the brokers? What do you think about what will happen to them if transactions are down? Do you think you'll have a small set of brokers, which makes Localize even that much more important and powerful for those that are there?
So I don't think the industry, the market as a whole will shrink. I think like every or most other industries that were disrupted by technology, I think there's going to be some consolidation. I think it will become more efficient with higher utilization, more focus. And so potentially you will have maybe less real estate agents, but the ones that will invest again in progress, in technology, in tools, real tools, proactive tools, disruptive technologies, not just automation, sort of old world technologies, they will prevail. They will.
I mean, I'm already a fan of you, and I understand what it is you're doing. To me, without, I mean, I'm not. It's not like an ad for you, but like, how could you not call up and just find out what the deal is? Like, just to be like, yo, how much does it cost? You know what I mean? And just to talk to your crew. So, how can they find you? What's the best way to find Localize?
So, best way is to go to our site, LocalizeOS.com, and ask for a meeting.
And then you have like a big Instagram following. You got a big TikTok. You know,
I'm ashamed. I'm not sure what my Instagram handle is.
Knowing you after we spoke, you must have fucking huge.
I used
bro.
to have Instagram only with myself and my dog, and then my wife told me, "You're married, you have 3 kids, you should probably post other things." And so I'm not great.
You're trying to find out what to post now, huh?
Yeah.
All right. Well, listen, I really appreciate you. I can't wait to be on stage tomorrow with you, and thank you for coming through, brother, man.
Awesome. Thank you.
You got it.
Now, that was an episode you better have paid attention to. You better hit them up and take a look. If you're on that side of the business, you're in that brokerage business, you better pay attention. If you're in another business that doesn't have to do with that brokerage business, you better find the companies that are doing something similar to get involved. If you're not doing what his company is doing for this business, you're going to be left behind. I don't even know if you're a star agent or just getting started. How do you not get powered up like that? Like immediately. You pay that monthly fee for that SaaS, and boom, shakalaka, you got deals coming in and out left and right. You don't have to worry about it. Go to the moment and the minute where you're needed as a human to get the transaction done. The rest of it, let the people who do it better, the AI, not people, the computers who do it better than you, get the job done for you. I mean, boom, I'm doing it. I do it in my business. You should be doing it in yours, and they're definitely doing it and hitting it right. So come on in, take a look. If you thought like what I did, that was straight fire. Oh, and by the way, like and subscribe. Hit that like button. Hit that subscribe button. Make some damn comments. We got sponsors now, people.